I'd like to call the meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Otter, can I call the roll, please?
Mr. Thacker?
Here.
Mr. Norris?
Here.
Ms. Thies?
Here.
Ms. Wigger? Ms. Wilson?
Here.
Mr. Thompson?
Here.
Mr. Loudermilk?
Here. Thank you, Mr. Otter. We'll begin the meeting with the first reading by summary reference of proposed ordinances and resolutions. First up, we have ROC 2021-037, additional appropriation, Honey Creek Fire Protection District, Debt Service Fund. They have a request here. Well, Mr. Shackelford, let me go through all these and then we'll come back to that, okay? All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Looks like we have a request here, some shortfalls that they have. Next is ROC 2021-038, out-of-series transfer building inspection. It is a reallocation of appropriation from payroll salaries to code enforcement and gasoline. Yes. I'll have to find that here because it's not listed on that part. Okay. So the first one, ROC 2021-037, additional appropriation 2021-20, Honey Creek Fire Protection District. Again, that's Honey Creek Fire Protection District Debt Service Fund. Next, it's like a resolution of reallocation of existing appropriation 2021-12, ROC 2021-38. It's an out-of-series transfer, building inspection. It's a reallocation of appropriation from payroll salaries to code enforcement and gasoline. Third one, additional appropriation 2021-21, ROC 2021-39, additional appropriation, Vigo County Solid Waste District. Next, we have resolution of reallocation of existing appropriation 2021-13, ROC 2021-40, out-of-series transfer Vigo County Veterans Assistance Office. It's a reallocation of appropriation from travel to office supplies. Next, additional appropriation 2021-22, ROC 2021-41, additional appropriation Vigo County Commissioner's Office. Next, additional appropriation 2023. Sorry about that. Additional appropriation 2021-23, ROC 2021-042, additional appropriation of Vigo County Health Department. Next, we have additional appropriation 2021-24, ROC 2021-042, additional appropriation Lit PSAP. And lastly, resolution reallocation of existing appropriation 2021-15, ROC 2021-042, out-of-series transfer, County Council Commissioners, reallocation, appropriation from payroll adjustments to unemployment. Next, public comment. Appears there is none. Move on to communications from elected officials, other officials, or agencies of the county. Is there anyone who'd like to speak at this time? Appears there is no one. Reports from committees. Any reports from the Budget Committee at this time?
Mr. President, we are deep into the work on the budget. We are finished with the departments. We began today working on salaries, looking at those, and working on levies, and we have a hearing set for Monday at 4 o'clock. We are anticipating that we might finish it up perhaps next Wednesday with a tailwind and some good luck.
So with that said, we're not in a position to vote on the budget next Tuesday.
I would say no.
Okay. I just want to make sure we were clear.
Yeah.
So better chance for October then, is that
Sure,
correct?
well, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the Budget Committee that'd like to add anything at this time?
Learning a lot about that.
Are there any drastic reductions or increases to take note of at this time? To kind of put on our radar that we should be aware of?
Reductions, I'm not familiar with that word, but we do have the addition, a drug court from Judge Sheehan, who has put together a very impressive presentation, and we spent a considerable amount of time today working toward getting some funding put together for that. It was a pretty complicated deal. He put a lot of time in on it, along with his people who helped him put it together, and we I believe with some more work he'll be able to get that going. It's a very badly needed court that I think will be a valuable program for our community. Everything else is kind of just what you might expect it to be. We need a lot of money that, we're working hard to just put it in the right place and be as frugal as we can be with it. The department heads have been very careful to not over-ask this year. They've been very responsible, I think.
Okay. I've heard some rumblings that it was proposed that the council budget be cut for next year. Is there anything to that?
That the council what?
The council budget be cut for next year?
Supplements for the drug court and community corrections over to the court's budget. It's not going away. And in there's $500,000 payroll supplement that's not been used in quite some time. It's being proposed to be removed, used for other purposes.
So has anyone talked to the courts? Do they want that in their budget?
I've talked to Judge Lewis today, and he told me they were fine with it. It's just a transfer from there to the drug court budget to cover what would be their deficit.
Because from what I can recall, we had $50,000 that we managed for drug court, and it's usually 2 drawdowns a year that they conduct. And then there was money for screeners, some $30-some thousand, is that correct?
That's the community correction.
Right. And it was my understanding in the past, they didn't want to manage those things. Has that changed?
I think their fear was that, as Judge Lewis explained to me today, they thought that they were going to be paying bills for the drug court. And I explained to him that, no, it's just a means to transfer funds from the general fund over to the drug court and community corrections. It's just a transfer, not an they won't be paying individual bills for office supplies or furniture or whatever.
Okay.
And he said they were good with that. There was a they had a misunderstanding of what would be involved in it. The drug court will still be responsible for paying their own bills.
Okay.
Or submit the claims to us and we pay the bills.
Okay. I guess I can get with Judge Lewis and just confirm that they're okay with everything before we move forward with that. Anything else?
I think that's about it. That was about it. We have had a great deal of concern expressed about the ability to adequately staff the jailers, and we're discussing what means we might use to attract more applicants and keep those fellas there and the gals there. You know, the minute we get them hired, they seem to take jobs in other facilities and other communities and so forth, and so we're looking at possibilities and possibly raising the wage, possibly changing, talking to the Sheriff's Department about changing the shifts, you know, rotating shifts and so forth, to see if that can be addressed. It's a complicated situation. It attracts young people to the job, and you know, it's a 4-day shift, and some of those jailers wind up not ever having a weekend day off. So it's not a job that some of them want to keep. So that's something we need to figure out how that can be a more attractive job. It's not exactly the nicest place in the
No.
world to work, if you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. I've worked there.
I know you did.
Yeah, I think that's a challenge for that sector in and of itself, especially with county jails.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tough job to fill, and it's tough to qualify people that want to do the job, and it's, quite frankly, a stepping stone for other
Yeah.
more promising careers
And
for a lot of people.
And it's not a high-paying position, but I think we're going to have to put a little bit of extra incentive there.
Okay.
That was about it. I mean, it was just a lot of moving numbers around today.
Okay.
About it.
Anyone else? All right, thank you. So we move on to ordinances relating to appropriations. Mr. Shackelford. Additional appropriation 2021-20 ROC 2021-37 Piney Creek Fire Protection District. So just for some of the newer members on the council, the $4,607 that you're asking for, that is money that you have within your budget, correct? It's not any money that comes from the general fund of the county?
No,
Okay,
that service fund has its own tax,
right.
and we made the first payment in, July, $87,302. What we did is, we were not, we borrowed $1 million, and we were buying 2 fire trucks. We're buying a new engine, buying. We will have to supplement that $1 million with $53,000.
Any questions from council? Thank you, Joe. Next up, resolution reallocation of existing appropriation 2021-12, ROC 2021-38, building inspection. Is there no one here to speak on that?
I can tell you. Building inspection in the past has paid part-time people for mowing lawns. And I guess they haven't been able to hire part-timers to do it, so they've contracted with lawn services. So they're wanting to take that money that they would have used for part-time employees and transfer it to the contractual services account to pay contractors to do the mowing.
I can kind of speak on this, President Loudermilk, if you want me
Sure.
to. Due to an overwhelming demand of people wanting lawns cut, they are out of contractual money. So they want to take some of that part-time money and put it back into that line item to be able to pay the contractor to cut the grass.
So it's just an increase in the amount of lots that need mowed, not an increase in the
No,
service
yeah.
fee or anything like that?
For some reason, and Brendan might be able to touch on this more than me, but in the past, we haven't been able to hire anybody for the amount of money, the part-time employment to cut lawns. So last year, the Parks Department used Kelly Hauser. This year, we're doing the same thing, and we're out of money to pay him to cut lawns.
Questions from council? Will Terry Bays?
Yeah, I think there was some confusion with him since he's new. I don't think he thought he had to be here tonight. I think he thought he had to be at the next meeting.
Okay, so he'll be here next week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because he texted me about an hour ago, and I didn't see it until about 5 minutes ago. So.
Okay. Guess we can reserve questions for next week then, if that's what council would like to do.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. Next, additional appropriation 2021-21, ROC 2021-39, Vigo County Solid Waste Management District.
Mr. President, Council, my name's Karam Nasser. I am the Executive Director of the Vigo County Solid Waste Management District. We are coming before you to request an additional appropriation of $72,000. $12,000 is for personal services. This year we hired a part-time employee that has allowed us to be able to do more events such as weekly e-waste recycling. We previously were only doing that quarterly. It also allows us to have that manpower to do weekly shredding. We got a grant earlier this year that allows us to do shredding on site. We've done over 6 tons of shredding since we've done that. And then having this part-time employee has allowed us to do more township cleanups. Last year we only did 2. At the end of 2021 we'll have done 15. The other $60,000 is for other services. As I mentioned, we are doing weekly e-waste. That has added to our special line item, the special events line item, excuse me. Each township that we do clean up costs us about $1,500 to do it, so that's increasing our special events line item as well. But the biggest increase is the amount of recycling that we are collecting. Last year, we did 104 tons at a cost of $42,000. At the end of August of this year, we've already collected 202 tons. We average about 25 to 30 tons per month, and our cost so far this year is $47,500, and we still have 4 months to go. As you know, the district is funded through tipping fees from Sycamore Ridge landfill. It's not taxpayer funded, but DLGF says that we have to come before the council to get your approval. We have plenty of revenue coming in from the tipping fees, and we have a healthy balance as well. So I'll answer any questions you guys have.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
No glass questions?
I've
No
got
glass?
one. I've got an observation. I was going to say, you might want to mention, did you not buy some vehicles for the county?
Yeah, we bought a truck that has allowed us to do more of these events. Helps us to be able to haul the the recycled benches that you see throughout the city, as well as the trash receptacles. So we were able to buy that truck earlier this year. So again, we do have a healthy balance. We just need to be able to do this. And next year, our goal, we made our budget. One thing I did fail to mention is that our board approved this last month for the additional appropriation. Next year, our goal is to, each year we want to improve and do things better. We know there's a glass recycling demand in our community, and we are every day making phone calls to try to find a provider to do that. But there's just not a demand for glass recycling right now. It's a heavy product. It's a dangerous product. So we are trying to do that. Another thing that we're looking at next year is to do a total of 2 cleanups in each township, one in the spring, one in the fall. We're looking at doing evening hours and possibly a south location. All that is in our budget for next year. I just need to have my funds to be able to provide the service that we are this year.
And how about that walkway between West Terre Haute and Terre Haute?
Yeah, we, as a board, we donated a couple benches and a few trash receptacles. I know there was issues with, animals having accidents on the walkway, and there was no place to put it. So we were proud to donate 3 trash receptacles and then 2 benches to do on the overlook. Earlier this year, we donated benches and trash receptacles to 12 points. We still have on our radar to donate benches and trash receptacles to the police department, the new location on 7th Street, as well as doing a couple benches to honor Don Morris. He was one of the original board members for Solid Waste. So those are some of the things we're doing this year. We love to have anybody come up. I know a few of you have come up to recycle. You're more than welcome to come and take a tour, and I can answer any questions you have regarding any recyclable. Biggest thing is ISU, them opening back up. They've told me that they're averaging about 20 cars per day. We purchased a car counter earlier in the year. We're averaging about 225 cars a day. The fact that they're not taking plastics has put a bigger increase on us at our location. In fact, I had State Board of Accounts that came and did a tour, and they complimented us on the cleanliness, how we have everything organized for traffic flow. Here in a couple weeks, we have our Walkway event where we're kind of increasing our services that we did last year. We're going to not only do the chemicals and so forth, but we're also going to do the electronics again, appliances again, and this year we're adding tires. The health department currently provides that service for the community, but they base that on a grant, so we feel like there's a need to help out with that in the community. So we've added that to our Walkway event. That's September 25th from 8 a.m. until 2 p.m. So I just need my money that is ours. That's not taxpayer funded, as a reminder.
I'd like to say something if I could. Sorry
Sure.
to sound like this. But I had a chance to go and visit, was it in the spring when I brought, we did a cap drive at our school to help out with 12 points and to see the facility and how it's organized, but also the social media for like the township cleanups and things like that. It's really good to see as someone lives who, out in the country a little bit. I know sometimes we used to have, and we sometimes still have some dumpings, but I do think opportunities like this with the cleanups hopefully will help with that and continue. So I appreciate it, and I appreciate what you've done, especially like with the 12 Points project that we helped with.
And I did fail to mention, the board, Brendan and Mike and Chris, they focused on the cleanups this year. And we are having, our next one is October 2nd, which is at the Burnett Fire Department. That kind of helps us do both Otter Creek Township and Nevins because it's on the line. The 9th is the City of Terre Haute has their cleanup. Be the 8 to 12. It's behind the current police station. And then the 23rd is Prairie Creek's township cleanup. So we'll have hit every township, the Sept Honey Creek. We've had issues getting a hold of their trustee, but that is our goal next year, is to do at least 2 in every township.
Sounds great. All right, thank you, Mr. Nasser. Moving on, resolution of reallocation of existing appropriation 2021-13 ROC 2021-40 Beale County Veteran Assistance Office.
Commissioner Kearns, I'm sorry, I think Tim should be the one up here discussing this, and he may not have knowledge. And I'm sorry to ask that. Representative.
They were asking for a transfer from travel expenses to office supplies, and they also made the same request last year, I believe. I will say that in their 2022 budget request that they had amended or shifted where the appropriations would be, so that they would be good for 2022.
Okay. Is this something that we should probably have Tim at the next meeting, if that's okay?
Well, he'll be at the next, I'm hoping he'll be at the next meeting.
Okay. I'd hate to kind of just try to do this on a whim without really, I mean, you did a great overview, so I think that pretty much covers it, but. Is that okay, Council President Laudermilk?
Yeah. If you
Okay.
can be here next month, yeah.
At next meeting?
Next meeting.
The next meeting?
Next meeting.
This
Next
month?
week.
This month? Okay.
Next week.
Thank you.
This month. Next up, additional appropriation 2021-22 ROC 2021- this is -22, is that right?
Yes, because it's an additional appropriation.
Okay. Beale County Commissioners.
Terre Wright, HR Director. I know you guys have sit through all of our meetings and all of the, with Baker Tilly and WIS, so we're here to ask for appropriations. Commissioners would like to have Baker Tilly do the compensation study. Did you get them the email about, Baker Tilly did answer the question about whether they would be available to do the other things. You had asked about, about whether Baker Tilly would be there to do all of the other, instead of having the HR department do it, if they would be available to do that. And yes, they did answer that, and she was copied on it. I didn't know if that got around it.
Yeah, I was copied on it as well, but, I mean, when we had the presentation that they gave over Zoom, they said that they could do those things, but that was, from my understanding of what was presented to us, that was not the norm. That was in the few, they did it, it was infrequent that they did those things.
Well, my discussion with him, that was not the way I got that. Like I said, he said it doesn't come under that contract, that they have a maintenance agreement that covers that.
And I guess maybe we probably need to look and see have that drafted and see what that looks like as well. I mean, just for the perspective of some of us on this council, I think that was kind of an important piece at our last meeting when we discussed these things. I know for me in particular, like I've said before, I just don't like the idea of somebody in the house making those decisions.
No,
I
I
just don't.
understand that. That's why I
Yeah.
got,
But I think it's important to see what that contract would look like in terms of what the cost would be to get the maintenance contract as well.
I'll just call in
Yeah.
tomorrow and see if I can get that to you guys.
Okay, that'd be great.
Is that all you needed other than that, though? I mean, you were copied on on both companies, so you have everything.
Is there any other questions from council or comments? Thank you, Karen.
Okay.
Next up, additional appropriation, 2023, check 2021-23 RC 2021-42, Vigo County Health Department.
What we got, I guess the next two are to cover to cover deficits in the unemployment appropriations.
So we want to just discuss all three of these at
Yeah,
once,
might
Jim?
as well,
So-
same issue.
Okay, so additional appropriation 2021-23, ROC 2021-42, Vigo County Health Department.
And
And additional
PSAP.
appropriation 2021-24, ROC 2021-42, Lit PSAP.
Yeah,
And then resolution of reallocation of existing appropriation 2021-15, ROC 2021-42, County Council Commissioners. Looks like it's all tied together, is that fair?
yeah. The health department, I suppose they're in the hole because primarily, I would guess because of all the contact tracers they've hired and laid off and gone elsewhere. Lit PSAP, because there's a couple of former dispatchers on unemployment. It's, what I've been told, it doesn't, over the past year, with the COVID regulations for unemployment, you pretty much get it whether you've been laid off or resigned or whatever. It's pretty difficult to challenge them, so consequently, we've gone in the hole on unemployment. And the third one, that payroll adjustment account that told you that it's in the council budget, I thought that it would be appropriate to transfer $35,000 out of that to cover the general fund unemployment deficit. I don't know how many of you understand, but unlike in the private sector, you pay quarterly unemployment. We're on a reimbursement basis. When a former employee starts to collect unemployment, we get the bill for the unemployment to reimburse them the full amount of their check.
Any questions from council?
I guess I kind of do. Is this typical? Is it a typical thing that is asked, that general fund, the council general fund, is taken out of that for the unemployment deficit?
No, it's not.
I wouldn't say it's typical
No.
necessarily. I mean, the
We could,
500,000 is set aside essentially for any shortfalls that may come up from time to time. I mean, I think that was kind of the premise behind it originally, is that right?
I suppose, yeah, and I think was there maybe to,
Cover any,
but in the to this point, I'm not aware of it ever being used, so we could do an additional if you wanted, but this is one way to do it. To cover, and it's not like we've got a choice of not paying it.
what was the part for the commissioners?
That, the general fund unemployment expenses are in the commissioner's budget.
Okay. So
And
the
it needs-
adjustments are being asked out of the council budget, the unemployment piece out of the commissioners.
Transferring 35,000 from that line item to the
Right.
unemployment in the commissioner's budget.
Oh, in the commissioners, okay.
So these 35,000 is out of council into commissioners?
Right.
Okay.
The other alternative would be to ask for an additional appropriation in the commissioner's budget.
Any thoughts or questions from council? On the health fund, you said that was for unemployment, is that correct?
Yeah.
And that was for the contact tracers, or we just, did
I
they lay them
assume-
off, or they quit, or what was the situation there?
I don't know, you'd have to talk to Chuck. I think a lot of them were part-time students, so
That's correct.
they
That
quit
is
and
correct.
come and go, and they might, I don't know who all's on it.
The other day
First.
in one of the budget meetings, this came up, and it was mentioned that it was for one full-time employee, that it was not the part-time employees.
It wasn't. That must be what the one is there. She's got one dispatcher and one,
But I mean, it was specific to the health department we
It
were
was-
talking
it
about.
was
We
an
didn't talk
individual.
about the dispatch.
Who'd been working there for some period of time and had a long-term employment there, and
Yeah, Commissioner Kearns, I don't think that the contact tracers fall under this, because they're hired as a contract.
Yeah.
It's completely separate, and
they
that's
are. That's
through our
what I
COVID funds. And they did have one, as Vicki said, that Councilmember Wager said, well, you had a 20-plus year employee that's no
Right.
longer with us. We're covering that.
But
And
even-
with 911, they continue to experience a high turnover rate. And that's one of the challenges that we face. We're having a hard time keeping 911 dispatchers as they leave, for whatever reason they leave, whether it's on their own or we encourage them to leave. Unemployment may be there, so we're going to incur those costs.
dispatchers.
So, but it's not for the contact tracers. It shouldn't be.
The same thing with the dispatchers, it's a full-time employee that we're talking about too? Okay.
Yeah, and we're going to keep getting hit with this. We're having a hard time keeping employees across the board, but 911, jailers, it's a problem.
Thank you. Anything further from council? Did you have anything further, Jim?
no.
All right, if there is nothing further, I entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion on the floor by Councilman Wilson, a second by Councilman Thacker. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, meeting adjourned.
Now, that was a meeting. You look good in pink.
Strawberry sundae, so
Oh, I
I'm not
think
sure
you
where that
look